Teacher Chi took out a shadow stone. On it was a magnified ice talisman. Teacher Chi glanced at Yun Chujio. Seeing that she did not raise any objections, he heaved a sigh of relief. Oh my God, if this were to become a joke like Teacher Yang, it would be so embarrassing. Teacher Chi took the ruler and began to explain the ice talisman. He explained it in great detail. He estimated that he could only explain about 1/10 of it in a class. Yun Chujio did not have the patience to take 10 lessons. While she was memorizing the drawing method of the ice talisman, she used her fingers to draw on the table. During the break in Teacher Chi's lecture, she caught a glimpse of Yun Chujio's movements, and she did not agree with it. This Yun Chujio was a little too impatient. She should listen carefully in class and practice slowly when she went back. Maybe it was just a coincidence that she pointed out the flaws in the shadow stone last time? When the class ended, Teacher Chi asked Yun Chujio to stay. Yun Chujio, how did you find the problem with the Earth Fisher Talisman Shadow Stone last time? Because I like drawing. I saw that the color of the blood of the Lion Demon Beast was lighter than the one on it, so I guessed that the spiritual power was weakened, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Teacher Chi was very disappointed. He thought that Yun Chujio had the talent of talisman, but he didn't expect it to be a coincidence. In the following days, Yun Chujio started to run amok among all the grades. Although some teachers didn't like her, the academy's rules didn't prohibit students from skipping classes, so they could only turn a blind eye. Yun Chujio was simply enjoying it. She felt that this teaching method was suitable for her, or else it would be a waste of time. Yun Chujio was in a good mood, and a certain Shio's mood was simply broken. What happened to 8 days to recover? It had already been 18 days, wasn't it? Why was it still aiming? Yun Chujio was also very puzzled. Could it be that this transformation pill was used on demon beasts to have a permanent medicinal effect? It could never be recovered? Yun Chujio did not mind. After all, it was a spiritual pet that was exchanged for a meat bun. So what if it was a kitten? She could just keep it for fun. On this day, Yun Chujio went to the class as usual. This time, she went to the second grade's beast taming class. Because the beast taming technique was somewhat useless, many students mainly chose to cultivate pills or talismans. They chose to cultivate the beast taming technique only for the sake of having the opportunity to tame demon beasts as spiritual pets in the future. After Hongchuan saw Yun Chujio, he tried his best to hide in the crowd, afraid that Yun Chujio would find fault with him. He was really thinking too much. At this time, Yun Chujio's attention was all focused on the demonic birdhouse. Yes, those eggs? This guy swallowed his saliva. It had been a long time since he ate egg custard. He would definitely go to the cafeteria and order one at night. Some of the demonic bird eggs were about to hatch. When they felt the gaze of the wolves, they couldn't help but tremble. Some even rolled into the nest. Some of the students said in surprise, "Look, why are the eggs moving? Are they going to hatch? That's not right. Didn't the sign on it say the estimated time of hatch? There's still a month to go. Then what's going on? Why are the eggs moving all of a sudden? Let's hurry up and report to Teacher Yu." Yun Chujio touched her chin guiltily. Could it be because of her? She was just thinking about it. She did not really want to use these eggs to make egg custard. However, these eggs should taste much better than the red feather eggs in the canteen. Why not take a few back and give it a try? The eggs trembled even more when they felt the burning gaze. Some of them even began to peck at the eggshells. They were actually born prematurely. Teacher Yu rushed over in a hurry. When he saw the performance of the demonic bird eggs, he was also very puzzled. Why did they break their shells so early? Originally, he had wanted to let the students practice with these demonic bird eggs. It seemed that it wouldn't work, so he could only try to find some young demonic beasts. Teacher Yu brought the students to the front of a beast house. There were some young demonic beasts inside, and there was a formation separating them in the middle to prevent them from biting each other. Teacher Yu said some things to take note of, then said, "Each of you choose a young cub and start practicing." Because these young demonic beasts were not very strong, Teacher Yu was not worried that the students would be in danger. The students all chose their targets and started practicing. Yun Chujio was not interested in these young demonic beasts, so she just watched the show from the side. Seeing this, Teacher Yu just shook his head and did not say anything. After all, this Yun Chujio was only here to freeload, so he could not criticize her. After watching for a while, Yun Chujio felt very bored. If she had known that the beast taming class was so boring, she would have stayed in the dormitory to cultivate. After enduring for 2 hours with great difficulty, the beast taming class finally ended. The students were all talking about their experiences and lessons just now. No one knew who took the lead, but they began to show off their respective spirit beasts. Mine is a 32nd level iron-bone earth-splitting red-clawed bear. I caught it with great difficulty. Only 32nd level? Mine is a 34th level red-flame long-tailed tiger, 2 levels higher than yours. What's running on the ground? Mine is a spreading wing red flame crane. It can be used as a flying spirit tool. As everyone was talking, the topic of conversation somehow changed to Yun Chujio. Someone asked, Junior Yun, what's your spirit pet? Yun Chujio wanted to say that she didn't have a spiritual pet at all. However, she smiled and said, my spiritual pet is definitely 1 in 10,000. You must not have seen it before. Everyone's curiosity was piqued by her. They clamored for Yun Chujio to be released so that they could see it for themselves. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Alright, since you're so enthusiastic, I'll let you have an eye-opening experience. As Yun Chujio spoke, she released the fire-eating shio. When everyone saw the kittens on the ground, they were instantly dumbfounded. The kittens of the fire-breathing cats? Yun Chujio's spiritual pet was actually a Tier 4 fire-breathing cat kittens? Was she crazy? Even if she wasn't picky about food, she still had to get a Tier 30 demonic beast as her spiritual pet. Could this Tier 4 be considered a spiritual pet? The fire-eating shio on the ground felt everyone's disdainful gaze and wanted to bang its head against the wall. Meow meow, it bet 100 dried fish. That damned smelly girl must have done it on purpose. Hearing the commotion over here, Teacher Yu also walked over curiously. Seeing the kitten on the ground, he looked at Yun Chujio sympathetically. No wonder this Yun Chujio wanted to come to the beast taming class. It was probably because she wanted to exchange for a high-level demon beast. It was also true. Any other one would be much better than this 4th-level kitten. Fire-eating shio was so angry that it wanted to die. However, Yun Chujio still sighed and said, Sigh, did you all see it? My spiritual pet is this little thing. There's no choice. I'm a person who values friendship and loyalty. Back then, it had always accompanied me in the Qingxian continent. I can't just throw it away. When the students learned the truth, they immediately lamented that Yun Chujio really valued friendship and loyalty. She was really too kind. She actually treated her spiritual pet so well. This cat cub could be considered to have met a good master. They were so angry that they couldn't live anymore. Everyone was talking and laughing as they walked out. No one noticed that when the fire-eating shio called out, the demon beasts were all trembling. Some of them even prostrated on the ground, looking like they were submitting. As the cat cub had crossed the road, Yun Chujio started to walk the cat whenever she had nothing to do. What? Did you say that the academy's rules forbade the release of spiritual pets? Sorry, a certain Geo had a lot of points. If you had the ability, go and report it. After that, there was no after that. A certain Geo was still walking the cat openly and no one reported it. The fire-eating shio was already shameless after being destroyed. For the sake of a mouthful of food, it eagerly followed behind Yun Chujio and acted cute. Kitten, go up the tree and pluck the reddest and largest fruit for me. Yun Chujio pointed at a spirit fruit tree and said to the fire-eating shio. The miserable fire-eating shio climbed up the spirit fruit tree and bit off the stem of the fruit. Yun Chujio caught it in her hand and gave a small dried fish to a certain shio with satisfaction. The certain shio gnawed on the small dried fish with sorrow in its heart. It thought back to when it was the overlord of the Sky Fire Valley. It thought back to when it was the indomitable fire-eating shio, but now? It had actually become a target to pluck the fruit. When would this day end? However, speaking of which, climbing the tree seemed to be quite fun. On this day, Yun Chujio went to the alchemy class as usual. Although Yun Chujio was tyrannical, she also felt that it was inappropriate to walk the cat in the alchemy room, so she planned to put the fire-eating Shio into the spirit beast bag. Take a peek. Master, I want to climb the tree. A certain Shio was addicted to climbing the tree every day. If it didn't climb the tree for a day, it would feel like something was missing. Yun Chujio felt that no one dared to openly harm the fire-eating Shio. Moreover, they had a spiritual sense connection, so she would know if there was danger. Therefore, she agreed to the fire-eating Shio's request and put it outside, letting it play by itself. 2 hours later, the alchemy class ended. Yun Chujio walked out of the alchemy room and looked around. She did not find fire-eating Shio. Where did this kitten go? Yun Chujio quickly used her spiritual sense to contact fire-eating Shio. She was shocked to find that she could not contact fire-eating Shio. How is this possible? There was only one possibility for such a situation to happen. Fire-eating Shio's current location could isolate spiritual sense. Could it be that the kitten had been captured? Who would capture a level 4 kitten for no reason? Could it be targeted at her? Although Yun Chujio did not have deep feelings for the kitten, she would not leave it to die. She quickly mobilized the crowd to search for it. Although some of the students were gloating over Yun Chujio's misfortune, they still tried their best to help her search after hearing Yun Chujio's promise of a large sum of money. However, even so, they still found nothing. At this moment, Yun Chujio felt a slight pain in her divine sense. Her contract with the fire-eating Shio had actually been severed. There were only 2 possibilities in this situation. Either the fire-eating Shio had died, or someone had forcefully severed the contract in the fire-eating Shio's divine sense. A fierce glint flashed across Yun Chujio's eyes. She had to find this person. Even if it was Yun Chujio's kitten, it would be courting death if anyone touched it. Yun Chujio forced herself to calm down. There were only a few places in the Xingtian Academy that could block spiritual sense, so where could it be? Yun Chujio suddenly had a thought and quickly jumped toward the Heavenly Dao cliff. Little Tian, do you know the whereabouts of the kitten? Did someone bring it to the bottom of the valley? 2 hours ago, someone did go down to the bottom of the valley. As for whether he took your kitten, I don't know. Oh right, that person is the one I told you about. He has been going down to the bottom of the valley recently. Little Tian, send me down. Yun Chujio had a premonition that the person who went down to the bottom of the valley was most likely the person who activated the teleportation formation and also the person who stole the kitten. Can you do it alone? That person has already entered the cave of the 9-in Netherworld flower. I can help you if you are at the bottom of the valley, but I can't help you if you are in the cave, Tiandao Cliff said worriedly. It's fine. Send me down. If any later, I'm afraid that the kittens will die. Yun Chujio didn't have anyone she could trust in the Xingtian Academy other than Shui Wuji and Jin Ji. Furthermore, they might not be able to help her even if they were to go down. It was better for her to stay up there. If anything happened to her, there would be someone to deliver the message. Besides, she still had the Great Void Mirror. It wouldn't be a problem for her to keep her life. Therefore, after Yun Chujio sent a message to Shui Wuji and Jin Ji, she asked the Heavenly Dao Cliff to send her to the bottom of the Valley of Hell. At this moment, in a cave in the Valley of Hell, the fire-eating Shio was curled up in a corner. There were still traces of blood on its mouth and legs. In front of it stood a man dressed in a teacher's uniform. The man held a porcelain bottle in his hand. He licked it with his tongue and frowned. He thought to himself, "Strange. There's nothing unusual. What's going on? If it's just a fire-breathing cat cub, why would it make the other demon beast cubs submit?" The spiritual power of the fire-eating Shio was restrained. Although it wanted to tear the man in front of it into pieces, it could only curse in its heart. The man pondered for a moment, then said with a sinister smile, "Little thing, it seems that I can only establish a temporary contract with you to understand the ins and outs of the matter." Meow. Don't even think about it. I will not establish a temporary contract with a bastard like you even if I have to use my divine sense. Fire-eating Shio cursed angrily. However, to the man, it was just a peering sound. The man held a 3-inch-long needle in his hand and pricked Fire-Eating Shio's body. He heard Fire-Eating Shio's miserable cry. His face revealed a brutal pleasure. Little thing, how does it feel to be pricked by a needle? If you don't want to be pricked, quickly show your submission. You turtle bastard. You will die a horrible death. Don't even think about it. Fire-Eating Shio's stubborn temper was triggered. Although his body was covered in wounds, he still did not yield. The man stabbed Fire-Eating Shio's body again. Then, he said sinisterly, "Little thing, don't tell me you are delusional to think that Yun Chujio will come and save you? Don't tell me that she would not think that I have caught you at the bottom of the valley. Even if she knew, do you think she would take the risk to come and save you? You are just a toy of hers." The light in Fire-Eating Shio's eyes became dimmer and dimmer. Yes, its contract with the little girl had been broken, and it was useless. How could the little girl come and save it? The man glanced at the Fire-Eating Shio's appearance and laughed sinisterly. "How is it? Little thing, as long as you establish a temporary contract with me, I'll spare you. Don't you like eating dried fish? I'll let you eat as much as you want in the future." The Fire-Eating Shio raised its head with great effort. It glanced at the man with disdain. "Take a look, you self-righteous fool. Do you really think that I would throw away my face just for a few dried fish?" It was happy to curry favor with the little girl because it didn't hate her. Although the man didn't understand Fire-Eating Shio's words, he could see that Fire-Eating Shio was looking down on him. The man kicked Fire-Eating Shio away and knocked it against the stone wall. Blood flowed out of the Fire-Eating Shio's mouth again. The man walked in front of it and stared at it coldly. "Are you willing to submit or not?" Fire-Eating Shio closed its eyes. It would rather die than submit. This was the dignity of a demonic beast. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The man's face was gloomy. He originally thought that he could easily tame this little thing, but he didn't expect that it would rather die than establish a temporary contract with him. Although he could forcibly establish a temporary contract with it, if it self-destructed its spiritual sense, it would also damage his spiritual sense. This really wasn't worth it. The man took out the long needle again. He said coldly, "Little thing, if you still don't give in, I'll stab your eyes blind. In the future, you'll become blind. Think about it, it doesn't matter who you acknowledge as your master. Why are you so stupid?" The Fire-Eating Shio coldly glanced at him. It forced itself to stand up and looked at the man with disdain. The man could not help but take a step back. He actually felt a pressure from this heavily injured little thing. Could it be that this little thing was really unusual? The Fire-Eating Shio had already made up its mind. If the man really wanted to stab it in the eye, it would self-detonate its inner core. If it could not heal this bastard, it could forget about it. The long needle in the man's hand was getting closer and closer to the Fire-Eating Shio. At this moment, someone said coldly, "Teacher, you bullied my spiritual pet. Have you asked for my opinion?" When the Fire-Eating Shio saw the person who spoke, its pitch-black eyes immediately became watery. She had really come to save it? The man turned to look at the person who spoke and held the Fire-Eating Shio in his hand. With a fake smile, he said, "Yun Chujio? I didn't expect that you could really find this place. This is also good, so that I won't have to waste my energy to find another opportunity to kill you." Yun Chujio took a few steps forward. "Kill me? Does that mean that you were the one who tampered with the teleportation array last time? I didn't expect you to know so much. It seems that I underestimated that old guy at the array, and he actually found out about it. I have to say, you are really stupid. Since you know it's me, why did you still come down?" The man said contemptuously, "Because it's my spiritual pet. If I don't save it, who will? Let it go, and I'll let you go." Yun Chujio saw the blood stains on the Fire-Eating Shio's body, and her heart was instantly filled with anger. The man was stunned at first, then he laughed out loud. "Yun Chujio, you're really stupid. You actually risked your life for a spiritual pet? Since you're so kind, then I'll let your master's pet die together. It can be considered as me doing a good deed." Fire-Eating Shio hurriedly took a few glances and cried out. The meaning was obvious. It told Yun Chujio to quickly leave and ignore it. It used to think that those spiritual beasts that recognized humans as their masters were simply stupid. Giving up the freedom and dignity of a demonic beast to protect a human, wasn't it sick? The reason why it agreed to establish a contract with Yun Chujio was that it wanted to return to its original form. It had already calculated that once it returned to its original form, it would find an opportunity to return to its original form. Although in the process of implementing the contract, the route was a little off, and it was becoming more and more like a cat, its original intention had never changed. How could a level 45 demonic beast be willing to become a weak human spiritual beast? However, at this moment, it finally understood why some divine beasts would recognize a human as their master. It was because there was a type of emotion that was not limited to species, and that was friendship. The man laughed evilly. TSK, you really have a deep affection for your master. Darn girl, he'll give you a choice. If you obediently surrender, he'll let this little thing go. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. How do I know if what you're saying is true? Swear it. After you swear it, he'll let you do whatever you want. As long as you let the kitten go. Fire-eating Shio cried out anxiously. Was she stupid? But why was its heart sour and bitter? This was an unfamiliar feeling, an emotion it had never experienced before. Perhaps this was friendship? The man did not expect Yun Chujio to agree so easily. He despised her in his heart. This Yun Chujio was really stupid. She was willing to sacrifice her life for this cat cub. Alright, I swear. If you surrender obediently, I will let this little thing go. If I don't, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. The man thought, if he let this little thing go, it wouldn't be able to escape. When the time came, he would just catch it back. Yun Chujio nodded, took out a porcelain bottle, and threw it to the man. The spirit-devouring powder is inside. You can test it. The man took it, opened the porcelain bottle, and saw that it was indeed the spirit-devouring powder. You are now in my palm. Don't play any tricks, or else, I will make your life worse than death, the man said viciously as he threw the porcelain bottle to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio did not say anything. She poured out 3 spirit-devouring powder from the porcelain bottle and swallowed them. As expected, there was no spiritual energy fluctuation on her body. Now can you let go of the kitten? The man was a little surprised. The effect of the spirit-devouring powder did not seem to be so fast. However, it was probably because she swallowed 3 of them at once that the effect was so obvious. The man was afraid of the backlash from the oath, so he threw the fire-eating Shio to Yun Chujio. It's just a beast. You're really stupid. Yun Chujio saw that although the fire-eating Shio looked very miserable, it was only a superficial wound and there was no threat to its life. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief in her heart. Then she put the fire-eating Shio into the spirit beast bag. The man immediately realized that something was wrong. How could a person without spiritual power use the spirit beast bag? Yun Chujio put another pill to stop the bleeding into the spiritual beast bag. Then she looked at the man coldly. Are you surprised? Do you think I'm stupid enough to be blackmailed by you? TSK, although I don't know who your master is, I have to say that you're really stupid. You've been hiding in Xingtian Academy for many years, right? You actually gave yourself away for a kitten. If your master finds out, do you think he'll die of anger? The man saw that Yun Chujio's spiritual power had recovered to the 6th level of the Lingxian realm, and he was so angry that his face turned green. Stupid girl. You tricked me. Don't be too proud of yourself. How can a trash of the 6th level of the Lingxian realm escape from my hands? I am quite weak at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. I wonder what level of spiritual power you have? Could it be that you are at the 9th level of the Lingkong realm? Yun Chujio did not show any panic on her face, and she asked with a slightly mocking expression. You really have a sharp tongue. Although I am not at the 9th level of the spiritual void realm, my 1st level of the spiritual void realm is enough to deal with you. As the man spoke, he threw a palm at Yun Chujio. The man did not use his spiritual beast. Clearly, he wanted to capture her alive and torture Yun Chujio before killing her. Yun Chujio jumped to the side and dodged the man's attack. She did not have the same scruples as the man and threw several spiritual needles at the man. The man seemed to have some understanding of Yun Chujio's spiritual needles, so he did not use his hands to catch them. Instead, he raised his spiritual shield to block the attack of the small spiritual needles. The two of them fought. The man saw that although Yun Chujio's spiritual power was low, her movement was very fast. He lost his patience and released his spiritual beast at Yun Chujio. The man's spiritual beast was a 30-feet-long poisonous spiritual python. Not only that, there were also two 10-feet-long poisonous spiritual pythons. Yun Chujio's eyes deepened. It seemed that the two small poisonous pythons were supplementary spiritual beasts. Although Yun Chujio really wanted to escape from the tunnel was narrow and long. After she entered, it would be even more disadvantageous to her. Therefore, she could only deal with the man in this stone room. Yun Chujio had no other good ideas, so she could only release her spiritual power piglets to deal with it. When the man saw Yun Chujio release a group of spiritual power piglets, he was shocked. This Yun Chujio's spiritual power beast was actually piglets? The disdain in the man's heart was quickly replaced by shock. Although the spiritual power piglets were very weak, they actually started to absorb the spiritual power of the spiritual power poisonous python for their own use. How was this possible? It was simply unbelievable. No wonder the higher-ups ordered to kill this Yun Chujio. She was indeed a little strange. Yun Chujio knew that although the spiritual energy piglet was special, the difference between her and the man's spiritual energy level was too big. The spiritual energy piglet would not be able to hold on for long. It seemed that she could only use the 10,000-year-old fire marrow. Yun Chujio quickly communicated with the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, but she found that there was no movement at all. She tragically discovered that perhaps because the 10,000-year-old fire marrow had eaten too much fire marrow recently, it actually went into hibernation. Holy shit! What should she do? At this time, the spirit energy little pig had already been scattered by the spirit energy poisonous pythons, and 3 spirit energy poisonous pythons pounced towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had just dodged the 3 spirit energy poisonous pythons when the man struck her again. Fortunately, Yun Chujio's movement technique was flexible enough, and she used all her strength to leap up, barely dodging the man's attack. Stinky girl! You actually hid your spiritual power level? But even so, you're dead for sure today. The man realized that Yun Chujio was definitely not only at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm, but he did not take it to heart too much. Yun Chujio was simply at her wit's end. The talisman could not be used here, and neither could the puppets. She could release a few dumb cuties, but if the man caught one of them, it would become a bargaining chip to blackmail her. Or should she enter Xiajing's body? But if that was the case, her biggest secret would be exposed in front of this man. She could not use the Great Void Mirror unless it was absolutely necessary. Yun Chujio was slightly distracted. The large spiritual power poisonous python bit at her. Fortunately, the golden light sky umbrella given to her by Old Master Yi helped her block this attack. Yun Chujio was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. Oh my god, it seemed like it was better to get more treasures for self-defense. Stupid girl, I didn't expect you to have so many treasures on you. The man's eyes revealed a greedy look. His words reminded Yun Chujio. She opened all the defensive spiritual artifacts on her body. Although they couldn't withstand a single blow, there were many of them. She could hold on for a while longer. When the man saw that Yun Chujio did not care about the attack of the spiritual power poisonous python and pounced on him, he could not help but laugh in his heart. Was this Yun Chujio crazy? However, he soon discovered that Yun Chujio's body was shining. Although the sound of her body breaking kept coming, it did not hurt her at all. While he was stunned, several purple lightning bolts struck him. Although the man tried his best to dodge, he was still struck by the lightning on his left shoulder. Although it was not a big deal, it made him angry out of humiliation. Damned girl. I originally wanted to let you live a little longer, Since you are seeking death, then don't blame me for being ruthless. After the man finished speaking, he released a level 39 red-horned striped viper from his spiritual beast pouch. The red-horned striped viper hissed and hissed as it pounced towards Yun Chujio. Although Yun Chujio had dodged the attack of the red-horned striped viper, as time passed, there were not many defensive spiritual artifacts left on her body. Just as Yun Chujio was about to hide in the great void mirror, Xiao Hanyo inside the spiritual beast bag said, "Master, the kitten has transformed. It wants to go out and take revenge." Yun Chujio was overjoyed. The recovery of Xiao Hanyo was just too timely. Yun Chujio sneered at the man. "Do you think you are the only one with a spiritual beast? Let me show you my spiritual beast." As Yun Chujio said that, she raised her hand and let out the fire-eating Xiao. Before the fire-eating Xiao landed on the ground, it roared angrily. The red-horned striped viper was immediately intimidated by the pressure of the fire-eating Xiao and trembled. Its spiritual power level was 5 levels lower than the fire-eating Xiao, so it could only submit. The man looked at the fire-eating Xiao in disbelief. Fire-eating Xiao? How is this possible? How can you have a fire-eating Xiao? This is impossible. Your spiritual power level is so low, how can you tame a spiritual pet with such a high spiritual power level? The fire-eating Xiao did not care whether he was surprised or not. Right now, it only had one thought, and that was to take revenge. Damn it! Didn't this bastard stab it with a needle? Didn't he want to blind it? If it did not kill him today, it would not be a Xiao. The fire-eating Xiao spat out a huge fireball at the man, then it roared and pounced towards the man. The man dodged the fireball while using the spiritual poisonous python to block the fire-eating Xiao. The red-horned striped viper continued to attack Yun Chujio. When Yun Chujio saw that the fire-eating Xiao had returned to its original form, she felt relieved. With the help of the fire-eating Xiao, it was a piece of cake to deal with this man. After all, the level of the fire-eating Xiao was much higher than the man's. Yun Chujio saw that the man was beaten by the fire-eating Xiao until he was unable to fight back, so she released Duming to help her deal with the red-horned venomous snake. Soon, the red-horned venomous snake was killed by Yun Chujio and Duming. At the same time, the man was completely unable to resist and was forced into a corner by the fire-eating Xiao. The man's eyes revealed a trace of treachery. He raised his spiritual energy barrier to block the fire-eating Xiao's fireball. He suddenly bit his index finger and began to form a seal. Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of the man's actions and a thought flashed through her mind. She quickly said to the Xiao Hanyo, "Quick! Curse! He's going to use a secret technique to escape." The man had only formed a seal halfway when he suddenly staggered. Not only was the hand's seal incomplete, but the protective barrier had also dissipated. It was directly hit by the fire-eating Xiao's fireball. The man instantly turned into a fireball. He kept rolling on the ground, trying to extinguish the fire on his body. How could Yun Chujio give him a chance to escape? She kept attacking him with her silly cuteness. Finally, the man turned into ashes, leaving behind only a storage ring. Yun Chujio sat on the ground and panted heavily. She was still too weak, especially when external forces like talismans and small flames could not be used. However, her cultivation method was special. No matter how hard she worked, she could not advance without being struck by lightning. If only she had a way to be struck by lightning at any time and place. Yun Chujio took a short rest. She picked up the ring and sent her spiritual sense into it. Soon, a token appeared in her hand. The Higan flower pattern on it made Yun Chujio's heart tremble. When that man formed the seal, Yun Chujio had already guessed that it was someone from the Divine Devil Hall. Yun Chujio couldn't help but frown. She didn't expect that the Divine Devil Hall actually had their own power in the immortal Yuan continent. This master of the Divine Devil Hall must be constructing a very big conspiracy. Who exactly was he? What did he want to do? Was he just looking for the Eye of Earth Profound? Yun Chujio used her soul consciousness to probe into the storage ring and found a jade token of Xingtian Academy. She didn't expect the dead man to be from the Beastmaster department. She thought he was from the Array Formation department. However, it was also true that this way of doing things was hidden. She guessed that he had used the opportunity of patrolling to tamper with the teleportation array. Just as Yun Chujio was frowning and deep in thought, she heard the sound of someone taking aim. She turned her head suspiciously and saw that the fire-eating Shio had turned into a kitten once again. It was crying out with a face full of despair. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. What was going on? Could it be a sequela? Yun Chujio once again established an equal contract with the fire-eating Shio. Then she asked, "Kitten, what's going on? Why did you turn back?" The fire-eating Shio shook its head. It was also very helpless, okay? It was not easy for it to be so awesome, but it actually changed back. It simply did not want to live anymore. Yun Chujio frowned. It's probably because that bastard forcefully cut off the contract between you and me, causing your spiritual sense to be damaged. That's why it's like this. This is a spirit replenishing pill. You eat one pill a day. When your spiritual sense recovers, it will probably be fine. Fire-eating Shio looked at the spirit-replenishing pill with a look of disgust. It had a negative effect on human medicinal pills now. Would eating this thing have any negative effects? After Yun Chujio cleaned up the traces on the ground, she left the cave. At this time, the moon had already risen. After all this trouble, it was already 11 a.m. Yun Chujio asked the Heavenly Dao Cliff to bring her up. Shui Wuji and Jinji were waiting anxiously. Although they really wanted to go down and save her, they knew that if they went down, they would be a burden, so they could only wait up there. The three of them then left Tiandao Cliff and headed towards the dormitory. Along the way, they met the patrolling guards. Yun Chujio pulled the kitten out and scolded, "Don't mention it. This damn kitten ran away. We finally found it after much difficulty." Those guards all knew that Yun Chujio filled the entire academy with cats, so they didn't suspect anything and let the three of them go. In fact, according to common sense, running around the academy at night would deduct points. However, Yun Chujio was too famous, so these guards turned a blind eye to it. When the three of them arrived at Yun Chujio's dormitory, Yun Chujio told them everything in detail. Shui Wuji and Jinji felt a sense of panic and worry. They didn't expect that the Immortal Essence Continent had the power of the Divine Devil Hall. It seemed that the Immortal Essence Continent didn't know anything about this. As time went on, the Immortal Essence Continent would be in danger. "Little Sister Jio, what should we do next? Who do you want to tell this news to?" Shui Wuji asked. Yun Chujio smiled bitterly. "Brother Wuji, do you think that if I tell others about the Divine Devil Hall, they will believe me? They must think that I'm talking nonsense." Shui Wuji sighed. "You're right. Our words are light, and no one would believe us even if we told them. It seems that we can only take things one step at a time. The Immortal Yuan continent is full of talented people, and the Divine Devil Hall shouldn't be able to create any waves in the short term." Yun Chujio and Jinji also agreed with Shui Wuji's words. They could only hide this matter for the time being and announce it to the world when there was a chance in the future. Jinji asked curiously, "Little Jio, why did that person want to catch the kitten? Why do I feel that he didn't use the kitten to threaten you? Instead, he seemed to be targeting the kitten." Yun Chujio didn't think too much about it just now. Now that she thought about it, it was just as Jinji said. That person seemed to be targeting the kitten this time. What did he want to do? Yun Chujio looked at a certain Shio who was trying his best to eat the dried fish. "Little cat, why did that person catch you?" A certain Shio was at a loss. "He said that he wanted to establish a temporary contract with me. He said that by establishing a contract, he would understand the whole story. I don't know what he wants to do either. Is he a psychopath? The whole story? Could it be that he could see that there was something strange about the cat cub? It didn't make sense. The cat cub looked no different from a fire-breathing cat cub. How could he see that there was something strange?" Yun Chujio recalled that that person was the teacher of the Beastmaster department. Could it be that he had some secret method to see the uniqueness of the cat cub? The three of them discussed for a long time, but they still couldn't come up with a reason. Finally, Yun Chujio said, how about this? When this matter is over, I will find some time to test Teacher Du, who teaches U.S. Beastmaster. He is quite knowledgeable about demonic beasts. If he also can't find out the uniqueness of the cat cub, then there shouldn't be any problem. The next day at noon, Yun Chujio went to class as usual. She did not hear any news about the disappearance of the teacher. She thought for a moment and understood the gist of it. That person often went to the bottom of the valley of hell. He had probably thought of an excuse, so no one would pay attention to him even if he went missing for a few days. A few days later, there was a faint news from the academy that a teacher surnamed Ma from the Beastmaster division had gone missing. There were many different opinions. Some said that he was greedy for the things from the Beastmaster division, so he fled because he was afraid of punishment. There were also some who said that he had climbed to a higher position, so he left without saying goodbye. Among all these theories, no one guessed that Teacher Ma had met with an accident. After all, Xingtian Academy was heavily guarded, so it was impossible for anything to happen. Moreover, Teacher Ma's spiritual power level was not low. If someone were to kill him, there would not be no movement at all. Although Yun Chujio was slightly relieved, she still had some worries in her heart. She didn't know if Teacher Ma's accomplice was still in the Xingtian Academy, so she had to be more careful in the future. That afternoon, Yun Chujio went to the Spirit Beast Park to look for Teacher Du. You little girl, you haven't been here for a long time. Are you craving for honey again? Teacher Du teased. Yun Chujio laughed dryly and said, Look at what you said. I'm not a bear. I can't move when I see honey. This time, I want you to help me take a look at my spiritual pet. It hasn't advanced for a long time. What's going on? Teacher Du saw that the kitten didn't laugh at him like the others, so he carefully observed it. Then he said, I see that this fire-breathing kitten's spiritual sense seems to have been damaged. After it recovers its spiritual sense, it should be able to advance. Yun Chujio nodded, and then asked with her starry eyes, Teacher Du, do you think this cat cub of mine is some kind of divine beast or immortal beast cub? That's why it hasn't broken through yet. The corner of Teacher Du's eyes twitched violently. He thought to himself, no wonder this little girl has been raising such a cat cub. It turns out that she still fantasizes that this is a divine beast or immortal beast. It was simply a fool's dream. Little girl, your wish is good, but this is indeed just a fire-breathing cat cub. Although the fire-breathing cat's bloodline was mixed with the blood of the Qilin, Pai Xiu, White Tiger, and many other divine or immortal beasts, those were all ancestors from hundreds of thousands of years ago, or even millions of years ago. After countless generations of reproduction, it had long since faded to almost nothing. So, if you have the chance, you'd better take in a spirit pet of a higher level. This one can be your playmate. Yun Chujio answered dejectedly, then pretended to ask unintentionally, Teacher Du, I've seen a demon beast called the Fire-Eating Xiu on the Demon Beast map. Does it have any divine or immortal beast blood? A certain Xiao Mogu, who was playing with the corner of Yun Chujio's skirt on the ground, immediately pricked up its ears. Ever since it saw Yun Chujio's 4 spiritual pets, it had more or less felt inferior. That ugly fat bird was actually the black phoenix, that little mouse was the stone-eating rat, and that red fox already had 4 tails now. In the future, it would definitely be able to turn into 9 tails. Although it did not know what kind of breed that little mushroom was. It did not look simple either. Only it was just a demonic beast. Although its level was higher than theirs now, it would not be able to compare with them in the future. Moreover, it had actually turned into a peeper now. It really did not want to live anymore. Teacher Du smiled and said, Speaking of which, the fire-eating Xiu is very close to the fire-breathing cat. However, when it evolved back then, it evolved as a branch. Although the fire-eating Xiu's level is much higher than the fire-breathing cat's, the chance of it being able to awaken the ancestral blood is also very slim. So far, I have not heard of any success. Hearing Teacher Du's words, Yun Chujio suddenly understood. No wonder the fire-eating Xiu had turned into a kitten. It turned out that it was related to the fire-breathing cat. The fire-eating Xiu originally had a little flame in its heart, but it was immediately extinguished by Teacher Du's words. It meowed. It was a thin blue mushroom. Yun Chujio asked what she wanted to ask and then said something else. Then, the topic changed to Teacher Ma. Teacher Du, I heard that Teacher Ma went missing? I also heard that he was greedy for the things from the Beastmaster division. Is it true? Yun Chujio asked Teacher Du with a gossipy light. Teacher Du glared at her. Who did you hear nonsense from? Although Teacher Ma is a bit of a loner, his character is still okay. Why would he be greedy for the things from the academy? Teacher Ma was in charge of raising the spiritual beast cubs. It could be said that he was conscientious and there was nothing inappropriate about it. It's just that recently he said that he was about to break through and would occasionally take leave. Oh, so that's the case. Then why did he suddenly disappear? It's really strange. Yun Chujio agreed with her words, but her heart was moved. That Teacher Ma was in charge of the demon beast cubs? Could it be that there was something wrong with her when she was freeloading from the demon beast class that day? Yun Chujio chatted with Teacher Du for a while more, then she hugged the cat cubs and left. When she reached the demon beast cubs area, Yun Chujio deliberately observed that there was nothing wrong with the demon beast cubs. She was really puzzled. Yun Chujio really couldn't understand it, so she simply didn't think about it anymore. She continued to attend classes and freeloading from classes. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the semester, and the final exam had begun. The final exam, which was held once every 6 months, was extremely important to the Xingtian Academy because the final exam was held in unison with the WA Stone Academy. The two academies were secretly competing against each other, so every final exam was a battle of pride between the two academies. Yun Chujio wasn't interested in losing face. What she was interested in was the Great Night Luminescent Pearl. The last time, the outer shell of the Xingtian Divine Axe had mysteriously disappeared, or else the Great Night Luminescent Pearl would have long been in her hands. This time, no matter what, she had to get first place. At the pep rally before the final exam, Dean Gongsun gave an encouraging speech. There were also some representatives of the older students who went up to complain about the ugly faces of the WA Stone Academy. The entire Heaven Punisher Academy was in an uproar. It was as if they didn't want to live until they brought down the WA Stone Academy. A certain Gio only had one comment regarding this. They were full of themselves. Yun Chujio yawned when she heard this. What was the point of saying such nonsense? If you have the ability, why don't you increase the reward tenfold? As long as you have enough rewards, why are you afraid that these students won't work hard? You want the horse to run fast, and you want the horse to not eat grass. Old Man Gongsun is really stingy. When the crowd was excited, Dean Gongsun finally announced the contents of the test. The test location was the same as in previous years. It was still held in the Tianluo Mystic Realm on the outskirts of Tianluo City. The method of calculating the results was very simple. The more Tianluo flowers one obtained, the more points one would get. Yun Chujio couldn't help but complain. Picking Tianluo flowers once every half a year, wasn't the Tianluo flower already extinct? Besides, what was the point of having so many Tianluo flowers? Could it be that they were drying them out to light a fire? Just as Yun Chujio was complaining, she heard Dean Gongsun's explanation. Then she rubbed her nose awkwardly. All right, it was her ignorance and self-righteousness. Fortunately, she didn't say it out loud. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing? According to Dean Gongsun, the Tianluo flower was an illusion created by the Tianluo secret realm. Although in the eyes of the students, the Tianluo flower was real, outside the Tianluo secret realm, the Tianluo flower was just a stone. This kind of stone was called the Tianluo stone. It was extremely sturdy. All the Tianluo stones would be given to Mayor Huang to strengthen the city to prevent demon beasts or external enemies from invading. Yun Chujio thought about it for a moment. The city walls of the heavenly Luo city were indeed made up of some stones with patterns. So that was the heavenly Luo stone. Dean Gongsun added a few more things to take note of. It was nothing more than a ban on flying and the use of talismans and the like. Yun Chujio was numb to it. Although talismans were good, they could not be used in many places. They were really of little value. However, since it was a mystic realm, there might be some rare spirit herbs. It would be best if she could get rid of the 2 herbs that were missing from the transformation pill. Early the next morning, Yun Chujio followed everyone to the outskirts of Tianluo City, which was about 20 miles away. Yun Chujio thought that the so-called Tianluo mystic realm should be very awesome. At the very least, it should have some beautiful enchantment or something like that. However, when Dean Gongsun and Dean Duanmu of the WA Stone Academy jointly opened the Tianluo mystic realm, this fellow could not help but be greatly disappointed. After the 2 principals formed a seal, a hole appeared on the ground. In the words of a certain Jiao, it was a dog hole, all right. The size could only accommodate 1 person. Holy shit, how many years and months would it take for 10,000 people from 2 academies to enter? Just as Yun Chujio was complaining, she saw that the dog hole had changed. The dog hole was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 15 minutes, it had turned into a super large dog hole. Yun Chujio stretched her neck and looked inside. It was dark inside and nothing could be seen. It was like a huge black hole. The students entered the black hole according to their grades. It was probably a super large teleportation array. Yun Chujio felt that based on her past experience, there was an 80 to 90% chance that she would be rejected again or something would happen. Therefore, she waited until everyone had entered before she entered the black hole with Shui Wuji and Jin Ji. However, nothing unexpected happened. Yun Chujio and the other 2 successfully entered the Tianluo mystic realm. There were other people at the place where the 3 of them were teleported. Yun Chujio finally heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Tianluo mystic realm was quite normal and did not target her. Everyone gradually dispersed. The terrain of the Tianluo mystic realm was different every time. Therefore, everyone did not have a topographic map and could only rely on luck. Yun Chujio and the other 2 randomly chose a direction and began their trial journey. Yun Chujio and the other 2 strolled forward unhurriedly. The trial would last for a month anyway, so there was no need to be too anxious. Suddenly, Yun Chujio's spiritual sense transmitted the crying voice of the fire-eating Xiao. Master, they hit me. Aim, I can't live anymore. Seeing that there was no one around, Yun Chujio released the 5 silly cuties. Speak, kitten, what's going on? Yun Chujio looked at the crying fire-eating Xiao and asked. Fire-eating Xiao cried miserably. Master, they all hit me. They said I was unnecessary. Take a look. Fire-eating Xiao's heart collapsed. It had wanted to be a spiritual pet obediently, so why would it be bullied? Yun Chujio glanced at the other 4, and each of them lowered their heads guiltily. No one said anything. Yun Chujio pointed at the little red fox. Xiao Hong, what's going on? Why are you bullying the kittens? Xiao Hanio stole a glance at the little black bird and stuttered without saying anything. Yun Chujio immediately realized that the root of the problem was with the little black bird. She pointed at the little black bird and asked sternly, Xiao Hei, tell me, what's going on? Xiao Hanio snorted coldly. It said proudly, I was the one who ordered it. I just don't like it. Why do you always walk it? Why do you treat it so well? We are all much more senior than it, and our bloodlines are much higher. Why do you dote on it? Moreover, what's wrong with its transformation? Why did it transform into a cat? Doesn't it know that Mickey Mouse's sister hates cats the most? After Xiao Hanio finished speaking, the other 3 looked like they had a common enemy. That's right, why did this kitten get preferential treatment? They also wanted to go out for a walk. Yun Chujio choked. It was not that she doted on the fire-eating Xiao, but she felt that it was more normal to walk the cat. Otherwise, would she be allowed to walk the crow? Walk the mouse? Walk the fox? Or walk the mushroom? Yun Chujio touched her nose. If you can disguise yourselves well, I will walk you in the future. Besides, if there is a problem, the solution is, why are you bullying the kitten? Although it was not very popular in the past, now that it has turned over a new leaf, can't you be more magnanimous? You are brothers and sisters, can't you take care of the kitten? Fire-eating Xiao originally looked like a cat bullying others, But when it heard the last few words of Yun Chujio, it was instantly dumbfounded. What did she mean by not very likable? What did she mean by brothers and sisters? Could it be that she still had to call those idiots as brothers and sisters? What kind of joke was this? Xiao Hanyo was actually happy as it cried out loudly, "Kittens, from now on, you're the fifth brother. I'm telling you, in the future, you better behave yourself, or else I'll beat you up." Xiao Hanyo saw that Yun Chujio was glaring at it and quickly changed its words, "I am joking with you. Well, all of you can go into the spirit beast bag. I will accompany master." Fire-eating Xiao did not expect that it was originally going to complain, but in the end, it became a follower. Meow meow meow, it really wanted to die first. Yun Chujio warned them for a while, then she put the 4 little black rats into the spirit beast bag, then looked at Xiao Hanyo and said, "Are you sure you want me to walk you?" Xiao Hanyo's eyes widened. "Of course I'm sure. Am I not more noble than that kitten? Master, you walking me will definitely improve your style." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Alright, since that's the case, let's go." "Alright, let me remind you that flying is prohibited in here." Xiao Hanyo, "Black-hearted master, you can't play like that." Yun Chujio and the other 2 strolled around in front, followed by a swaying, fire-breathing crow. Yes, it was the kind that was as fat as a ball. At first, the little blackbird was still holding on, but later, it really couldn't hold on anymore. "Wow, master, you'd better put me into the spirit beast bag. Didn't you dislike me for not walking you? Why don't you want to be walked now? Are you playing with me?" Yun Chujio asked with a cold smile. Xiao Hanyo was terrified. No wonder its black-hearted master was so easy to talk to just now. It was waiting here. Woo-woo, how stupid was it to think that it could negotiate with its black-hearted master? Yun Chujio saw Xiao Hanyo's drooping head and snorted coldly, putting it into the spirit beast bag. The 5 in the spirit beast bag looked at each other. Xiao Hanyo, who complained, became Xiao Hanyo's underling. The 2 claws of the little black bird, who was stirring up trouble, were almost worn out. Suddenly, it had a feeling that they were brothers in distress. They really wanted to hug each other and cry together. Yun Chujio could not be bothered with the 5. She looked at the surrounding environment. This was a valley. Occasionally, she could see students who were undergoing trials. These students mostly formed small groups in groups of 3 to 5. This way, they could take turns to be on guard when they were resting. If they encountered any dangerous situations, they would have more protection. However, the number of Tianluo flowers was really pitiful. Only a few small groups had picked a pitiful few. Perhaps the Tianluo mystic realm would be looted once every 6 months. There were almost no high-grade herbs in it, only some herbs below the mystic rank. Moreover, the level of the demon beasts they encountered was not too high. Yun Chujio felt that this trial was of little value and could not be of any use at all. At night, when they camped, everyone consciously made their campsites very close to each other. This was beneficial in guarding against the demon beasts. Yun Chujio heard a few senior students chatting. "Why do I feel that this trial is different from the previous one? Yeah, I remember that when we came here half a year ago, there were a lot of Tianluo flowers. Moreover, we would occasionally encounter high-level herbs and high-level demon beasts. Why is there nothing this time? Didn't they say that the Tianluo mystic realm has the ability to self-repair? Yeah, it said that the area of Tianluo mystic realm is very, very large. What we saw was just the tip of the iceberg. Therefore, even if we come here once every half a year, there will still be new Tianluo flowers and high-level herbs appearing." Yun Chujio could not help but frown when she heard what they said. Could it be that she had been tricked again? This time, Qi Ling was smart, and even these people had been tricked as well. Yun Chujio felt that it was unlikely. After all, if the Qi Ling targeted other people, there would be karma. It would not be stupid enough to bear the karma just to frame her. Then the question came. What exactly was going on? Could it be that they were unlucky and chose a bad direction? Unexpectedly, from the second day onwards, the situation improved. The sky luo flowers started to appear one after another. The level of the medicinal herbs and demon beasts also became higher and higher. Only then did everyone relax. It seemed that they had not reached the place before. Yun Chujio and the other two also found a small cluster of sky luo flowers, about 5 or 6 of them. The sky luo flowers were protected by accompanying demonic insects. They were a type of demonic insects called sky luo poisonous bees. Although the sky luo mystic realm forbade flying, these poisonous bees could still fly up to a height of 10 feet from the ground. This kind of poisonous wasp was not very poisonous, but after a person was stung, they would feel dizzy and their combat strength would be greatly reduced. The more worrisome thing was that some demon beasts deliberately hid nearby. Once they found that a person was stung, they would come out to take advantage and attack humans. Therefore, when the students picked the Tian Luo flowers, they would be careful to avoid being ambushed by the demon beasts in the dark. Yun Chujio took a closer look at the so-called Tian Luo flower. It looked pleasing to the eye, but she did not know what kind of magical power it was. It was a flower in here, but it would turn into a stone when it went out. It was really magical. Yun Chujio signaled Xue Wuji and the other two not to be in a hurry to pick the Tian Luo flower. She looked around and found 3 35-level Tian Luo megalodon wolves behind a bush. The reason why she was able to notice them was that her spiritual power was higher than theirs, and their teeth were long and white, reflecting the sunlight. It was difficult not to notice them. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh. She waved her claws at the shrub. Can your sneak attack be a little more technical? Your long teeth have been exposed, and you still want to sneak attack us? I advise you to get some mud on your long teeth or dye them with grass juice the next time you hide. The 3 giant-toothed wolves in the bushes. They looked at their tusks, and sure enough, they did not seem to be in harmony with the surrounding bushes. Then, the question was, should they fight or run? Although their spiritual power level was equivalent to that of a human at the 8th level of the Lingxian realm, and the 3 humans on the opposite side were at the 5th, 6th, and 7th levels, they had the upper hand. However, for some reason, they felt that this little human girl was a little strange. They had never heard that humans would give them guidance before making a move. This girl was either sick or hiding some evil intentions. The 3 giant teeth wolves could not make up their minds for a while, so they just stood there and did not move. Yun Chujio could not be bothered with them. Anyway, even if Xue Wuji and Jinji were stung by the giant teeth wolves, she and Dumb Meng could still take care of the 3 stupid wolves. This guy was thinking about another problem. She could control the spiritual insects. Should she capture a nest of Tian Luo poisonous bees to establish a temporary contract? With these little things leading the way, it would be too easy to find the Tian Luo flower, right? It would be hard to even get first place, right? However, if that was the case, she had to avoid people's eyes and ears so that she would not be exposed. Yun Chujio looked around, but there were no other students nearby. This guy decided to go for it. The simplest way to contract this group of sky luo wasps was to contract the queen bee first. Therefore, Yun Chujio whispered to Xue Wuji and Jinji, "You guys attract the attention of the wasps. I'll go and contract the queen bee." Xue Wuji and Jinji told her to be careful. Then they made a gesture to pick the sky luo flowers to attract the sky luo wasps to attack them. There were only 5 sky luo flowers here, so the number of sky luo wasps was relatively small. Xue Wuji and Jinji could hold on for a while. If they encountered a large group of sky luo wasps, the 3 of them would not be enough. Yun Chujio saw that most of the sky luo wasps had gone to attack Xue Wuji and Jinji. Then she jumped into the beehive on the short tree. There were still a few worker bees left in the beehive. Yun Chujio's solution to them was very simple. A big bag of chili powder that was emitting black smoke immediately made the worker bees dizzy and knocked them on the ground. The queen bee in the beehive was also choked by the poisonous smoke. Yun Chujio grabbed the stinger and knocked them unconscious with the kitchen knife. Then, Yun Chujio established a temporary contract with the queen bee, and everything ended. The queen bee angrily ordered the worker bees to stop. It had also encountered some students who had gone through trials. The worst outcome was that the Tianluo flower had been taken away, but no one had ever had any designs on them. At most, they had only killed a few worker bees. But now it was fucking destroyed. Yun Chujio took a large kitchen knife and cut a small piece of honey to taste it. The taste was surprisingly wonderful. It was even better than the honey that she had gotten from Xingtian Academy. The queen bee dared not to express her anger. She really did not know what this human little girl wanted to do. Could it be that it was just for the honey? Yun Chujio shamelessly cut off a large piece of the hive, leaving only the part with the larvae. The 3 Tianluo megalodon wolves behind the bushes craned their necks and looked curiously. This little girl was indeed full of evil. She actually used poisonous smoke to smoke those poisonous bees. It was really bad. However, why didn't the queen bee know how to escape and resist? Could it be that she was blinded by the smoke? Yun Chujio gave the beehive to Jin Ji and Shui Wuji, one for each of them. Then she said to the queen bee, "Isn't it just to eat a little of your honey? Look at how stingy you are. As long as you listen to me obediently, I promise to upgrade your little beehive to a super big beehive." The queen bee looked at the few worker bees that were still dizzy on the ground, then looked at the big kitchen knife in Yun Chujio's hand, and could only compromise and say, "What do you want me to do?" "It's very simple. You help us find the Tianluo flower, and then you go and hook up with those worker bees to lure them into the encirclement. After killing them, we will split the honey equally." Yun Chujio said with a smile. The queen bee fell to the ground with a thud and fainted due to anger. Yun Chujio touched her nose. The psychological endurance of these demonic beasts was really too poor. They would faint at any time. It was really boring. After the 3 Tianluo gargantuan wolves who were watching the show heard Yun Chujio's words, they looked at each other. Oh God, it was a good thing that they didn't act rashly just now. Otherwise, their ending would be very miserable. Just as they were rejoicing, they saw the little girl slowly walking towards them. "Hey, 3 puppies, how about we do a business deal?" Shui Wuji and Jin Ji looked at each other. The 3 gargantuan wolves were probably going to be unlucky. The 3 gargantuan wolves were on guard. They felt that this human little girl must be taking some bad water to do a business deal. What business? How could humans and demon beasts do business? Didn't you ambush us just to eat? As long as you listen to me, I promise to let you eat your fill. Do you want to taste the taste of honey? Yun Chujio took out a beehive and waved it at the 3 gargantuan wolves. The sweet smell of honey drifted into the 3 gargantuan wolves' noses, and the 3 gargantuan wolves could not help but drool. Although the level of spiritual power of the gargoyles was not high, they were gregarious demonic insects and had poisonous needles, so they had no chance to taste the honey. Yun Chujio broke 3 pieces of the beehive and threw them to the 3 gargoyles. The 3 gargoyles did not find any poisonous smell after smelling it, so they could not help but swallow it. Damn! It was too delicious. They had never eaten such a sweet thing. The 3 giant-toothed wolves were forced to cry. They felt that they had lived in vain in the past. There was actually such a delicious thing in the world. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded when she saw it. Although she planned to use honey to hook up with the 3 giant-toothed wolves, wasn't this too exaggerated? They were so delicious that they cried? Compared to them, she, the foodie, could only sigh at her own inferiority. No wonder these 3 heads of teeth were so long. It was because they were too greedy. Yun Chujio said slowly, "How is it? As long as you are obedient, I guarantee that you will be able to eat such delicious honey every day. As you can see, I have already subdued that group of poisonous bees. If you follow me, do you still worry about not having any honey to eat?" The queen bee who had just woken up heard Yun Chujio's words and fainted again with a choking sound. This sinister and vicious girl not only made it use the honeybee trick, but also wanted to use their beehives to feed the wolves. She was too despicable and shameless. What kind of sin did she commit in her previous life to meet this pervert? The 3 heavenly gargantuan wolves were somewhat tempted. With their own strength, they had no way of getting the honey. However, what did this little girl want them to do? Yun Chujio seemed to understand their thoughts. She said with a smile, "Don't worry. As long as you establish a temporary contract with me, I will fulfill my promise. I won't let you do anything. But when we pick the sky luo flowers, you can help us be on guard." The three giant teeth wolves were conflicted. On one hand, they really wanted to eat the honey, but on the other hand, they felt that it was not a wise choice to be controlled by others. Moreover, for the sake of a mouthful of food, they did not even want the moral integrity of a demon beast. Wasn't that a little too shameful? How about this? When we leave the Tianluo mystic realm, I will give you some medicinal pills to stop the bleeding. In this way, in the future, when you are injured, you don't have to go around looking for medicinal herbs to treat your injuries. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Shui Wuji and Jin Ji could almost see the tail wagging behind this fellow. It was like a big-tailed wolf. The three heavenly gargantuan wolves did not know that this was the little ancestor of a pit beast. Initially, the three of them were already itching to make a move. Now that they heard that there were medicinal pills to stop the bleeding, they immediately forgot about their moral integrity. Yun Chujio successfully established a temporary contract with the three gargantuan sky wolves, and a certain Geo's foxtail was revealed. TSK Wolf Big, Wolf 2, Wolf 3, I've thought about it carefully just now. It would be a waste of your talents if I just let you guys be on guard duty. How about this? Those who are capable will have to work harder. You guys can be our part-time mounts. In addition, when we encounter the hive, well, leave the poisonous bees that the queen didn't manage to attract to you. You guys go and attract the poisonous bees, then well go and pick the Tianluo flower. The three Tianluo giant-toothed wolves. Question, is it too late to regret now? I'm waiting online. It's quite urgent. A moment later, Yun Chujio and the other two were munching on fruits as they leisurely rode on their wolves to their next destination. By the way, there were a few Tianluo poisonous bees leading the way. Although Shui Wuji and Jin Ji had seen a certain geopit beast many times, they were still a little confused. How come they not only had a mount, but they also had the Tianluo poisonous bees leading the way to look for the Tianluo flower? Why did it feel like a dream? They met a few groups of students on the way. When they saw Yun Chujio and the other two riding on the Tianluo giant-toothed wolf, they were all speechless. How did they do it? Those three giant-toothed wolves seemed to be of a higher level than them, right? Fortunately, they did not know that the few giant-toothed wolves flying in front of them had also been subdued. Otherwise, they would have doubted their own lives. Zhu Jingtong also saw Yun Chujio and the other two. A vicious look flashed in his eyes. Initially, he wanted to do something in the Tianluo mystic realm. He did not expect that this wretched girl had actually subdued three giant-toothed wolves. It seemed that he could only find another opportunity next time. In order to avoid the crowd, Yun Chujio deliberately let the Skynet poisonous bee lead them to a place where there were no people. Yun Chujio hid behind a bush and saw a Skynet flower in front of her. Next to the Skynet flower was a pile of rocks, and a huge beehive was built on top of the rocks. Yun Chujio looked around and did not find any other demon beasts. It was probably because the beehive was too big that no demon beasts dared to come and pick up scraps. Yun Chujio released the queen bee. It's time for you to use your charm. Pick up as many as you can. I believe that you are the most beautiful queen bee in Tianluo mystic realm. You have to believe in yourself too. Queen bee, can it not speak? Can it faint again? Brother Wuji, take this bag of chili noodles. After the queen bee has lured the worker bees over, light a fire and smoke them. Yun Chujio handed a bag of chili noodles and flint to Shui Wuji. Then, Yun Chujio turned her gaze towards the three gargantuan sky wolves. In a while, you guys will be responsible for attracting the remaining worker bees away. After I've taken care of the queen bee, you guys will be safe. The three gargantuan sky wolves felt that they might not live past today. If they were given a second chance, they would definitely say one word to this sinister, vicious, and shameless little girl: scram. If they had to add a deadline before the word scram, they hoped that it would be 10,000 years, no, 1,000,000 years. Yun Chujio finished dividing the work and released the queen bee. The queen bee flew shyly towards the cluster of sky luo flowers. All the demon bees were from a matriarchal society, and they had a fanatical obsession with the queen bee. Therefore, almost all the queen bees were not allowed to leave the nest to avoid attracting the attention of other worker bees. When the workers saw the queen bees, they were immediately dazed and rushed toward the queen bees. The queen bees flew toward the place where Shuewuji was hiding according to the plan. At the same time, 3 giant teeth wolves rushed to the front of the hive, which immediately attracted the crazy attacks of the workers who were left behind. The 3 giant teeth wolves ran as fast as they could. Yun Chujio used the same trick again. She used the poisonous chili smoke to lure the queen bee out and then killed it. Once the queen bee died, the worker bees immediately lost their backbone. The queen bee that Yun Chujio had subdued accepted them as a matter of course. Yun Chujio divided the beehive into 2 parts. Half of it was kept in her bag, and the other half was kept in her spirit beast pouch for the queen bee and worker bees to share. From that day onwards, Yun Chujio and the other 2 began to release the queen bee crazily. They controlled the worker bees, took the beehive, picked the gargantuan flowers, and released the queen bee in an endless cycle. The queen bee that was subdued by Yun Chujio was shy at first, but later on, she fell in love with this beautiful bee model. This was a good way to quickly develop and expand the harem. Now, it had become the most powerful queen bee in the Tianluo mystic realm. None of the queen bees had as many subordinates as it had. It was a well-deserved queen bee. The 3 giant-toothed wolves finally understood one thing. It turned out that no matter how delicious the food was, they would get sick of it if they ate it all the time. They felt that they would never want to eat honey in their entire lives, because, well, their teeth hurt. Yun Chujio looked at the Tianluo flowers in her storage ring and felt that it was about time. For the sake of sustainable development, it was better not to continue picking Tianluo flowers. This guy was counting the days. Less than half a month had passed. What was he going to do for the remaining half a month? Yun Chujio decided to use the remaining half a month to carry out the trial. This was a good opportunity. Jin Ji and Shuewuji naturally did not have any objections. After all, the previous half a month was no different from playing. They did not really fight. Hence, wherever the 3 of them passed, demon beasts were in trouble. Could this be called a trial? Which trial was surrounded by a large group of Skynet poisonous bees. Which trial was beaten half to death and didn't give them a quick end, yet they still had to continue fighting. Which trial was tormented to the point where they had no hope of living, yet they were forced to establish a temporary contract. What did you say? You want to protect the dignity of the demonic beasts, and would rather die than submit? What a joke. Let's not talk about the issue of unyielding first. We can't stop that smelly girl from opening her mouth. After making the beasts dizzy, they were contracted. When they came back to their senses, it was all for naught. Therefore, Yun Chujio and the other 2 tried to contract the demonic beasts along the way. Yun Chujio felt that the spirit beast bag that the pretty boy gave her was really a treasure. It contained so many demonic beasts, but it only occupied a small space. Little sister Jio, why did you contract so many demonic beasts? Shuewuji asked in confusion. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. I'm not afraid of anything. Who knows if the Qiling here will play tricks? I'm also worried about Lu Jinluan and her sister. I'll feel more confident if I contract more demonic beasts. Shuewuji finally understood. He thought to himself, let's not talk about the Qiling first. If Lu Jinluan and her sister came to find trouble, it would be like asking for a beating. Not to mention those demonic beasts, those Tianluo poisonous bees could scare them to death. As soon as Yun Chujio finished her words, more than 10 people walked over from afar. The leaders were Lu Jinluan and Qi Ling. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. She really couldn't help but mutter. When Lu Jinluan saw Yun Chujio and Qi Ling, she immediately led her people to surround the 3 people in the middle. Bitch! You didn't expect this day to come, did you? The humiliation you gave me last time, this time I will take back both the principal and interest. Kneel down. Lu Jinluan's beautiful face was full of malevolence. Yun Chujio looked at her as if she was an idiot. Lu Jinwan, are you crazy? Do you think that everyone in the 4 seas is your mother? Do you think that others have to do whatever you say? Lu Jinwan was so angry that her hands were trembling. Bitch. Fine, fine, I'll let you be stubborn. Let's all attack together and kill them all. Hearing Lu Jinluan's words, those people didn't make any movements but looked at Lu Pinyin. Lu Pinyin frowned. If it was only Yun Chujio and the other 2, they could have killed them without anyone knowing. But he didn't expect them to subdue the 3 giant teeth wolves. If they really fought, they might not be able to kill all of them. If the news was leaked, the Yi family wouldn't let it go. Lu Jinwan saw that Lu Pinyin didn't say anything and was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Brother, what are you thinking about? Why don't you let everyone kill them? Lu Pinyin gave her a look and then said to Yun Chujio, Yun Chujio, as long as you obediently apologize to my sister, I won't make things difficult for you on account of the relationship between the 2 families. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. I'll give you the same words. As long as you give me all the Tianluo flowers on you right now, I'll spare you. Otherwise, I won't be polite. The people behind Lu Pinyin burst into laughter when they heard Yun Chujio's words. Was this Yun Chujio stupid? Although they had 3 Tianluo gargantuan wolves, they would definitely be at a disadvantage if they really fought. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Pinyin clenched his teeth. It was very difficult to deal with Yun Chujio outside of the Sky Luo arcane realm, so he had to seize the opportunity. Jin Ji and Xue Wuji's eyes flashed with gloating. They would soon regret it. Even the 3 Sky Luo gargantuan wolves looked like they were watching a good show. These humans were really stupid. Did they think that this little devil was stupid? If there was no backup plan, did they think that this little devil would obediently wait for them to make a move? Just as Yun Chujio was about to release the gargantuan wasps to deal with these people, she heard a voice calling for help from afar. Moreover, the voice sounded rather familiar. Yi Bingyu? Lu Jinwan and the others also turned their heads to look. They saw a woman desperately running towards them. She looked very disheveled and there were some blood stains on her body. It was Yi Bingyu. Yi Bingyu saw Yun Chujio and hurriedly shouted, Little Jio, quick! Run! There's a monster! Lu Jinwan curled her lips and thought to herself, what a waste! How could there be a monster in this secret realm? It was nothing more than a demonic beast. Her heart moved. Could this Yi Bingyu be deliberately lying and trying to help Yun Chujio and the others escape? Brother, this Yi Bingyu must be spouting nonsense. She's just trying to help Yun Chujio and the others escape, Lu Jinwan said to Lu Pinyin. Lu Pinyin also felt that the monster Yi Bingyu was talking about was impossible to exist. A cold smile appeared on his lips. This Yi Bingyu had been treating him coldly recently, so he could teach her a lesson. In the blink of an eye, Yi Bingyu had already run to the front of the crowd. She said anxiously, Are you all stupid? The people who were with me were all killed. Lu Jinwan curled her lips. Yi Bingyu, even if you want to help Yun Chujio, this bitch, get out of here. Can you think of a more reliable excuse? How could there be a monster in the Tianluo arcane realm? It was nothing more than a high-level demon beast. There are so many of us, why would we be afraid of a demon beast? Yi Bingyu was so anxious that her eyes were red. Believe it or not. Little Jio, let's go quickly. Otherwise it will be too late. Yun Chujio saw Yi Bingyi's expression and knew that she was not lying. She rolled her eyes and said, Sister Bingyu, come over here. I have something to tell you. Yi Bingyu was so anxious that she was about to cry. What time was it? What was she talking about? She could only walk into the encirclement. Just as she was about to ask Yun Chujio what was going on, Yun Chujio pulled her onto the wolf's back. Then she shouted, The wind is tight. Add some ingredients. Blah blah blah. Upon hearing this, Xue Wuji and Jinji took out 2 large packets of chili noodles and threw them at the few people who were blocking their way. After these few days, the 3 giant-toothed wolves had already understood Yun Chujio and the others' tricks. Therefore, when Yun Chujio shouted, they held their breath and rushed forward with their eyes closed. The people that Lu Shi and his sister brought did not know that there was such a despicable trick like chili noodles in this world. They choked until tears flowed down their faces. By the time they reacted, Yun Chujio and the others had already disappeared. Cough, cough. Go after her. Go after her. Find that bitch and it'll tear her into pieces. Cough, cough. Lu Jinwan shouted as she coughed. Lu Pinyin and the others were about to go after Yun Chujio when they heard someone scream in fear, "Monster! Monster!" Everyone turned around and saw a monster that they had never seen before crawling towards them quickly. The monster was the size of a small hill. It also had arms and legs that looked like those of an octopus in the sea. It danced up and down. It was hard to tell how many arms and legs it had. Moreover, there were a few students on some of its arms and legs. It seemed that it was already dead. The monster's entire body was blood-red in color. It let out a strange hissing sound from its mouth. Lu Jinwan and the others were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. They finally understood why Yi Bingyu said there was a monster. This was indeed a monster that they had never seen in the demonic beast encyclopedia. After everyone reacted, they ran away. However, it was still too late. The monster's limbs could actually grow longer, and more than 10 of them suddenly stretched out and wrapped everyone up. Everyone took out their weapons and hacked at the monster's limbs in an attempt to escape. However, they did not expect that the monster's limbs were extremely hard. No matter how they hacked or burned it, there was no damage at all. Instead, everyone was strangled until they could not breathe. The monster hissed as it stuffed a student who had already died into its mouth. When Lu Jinwan saw the scene in front of her, she directly fainted from fright. The rest of the people weren't any better. They were simply regretting what they had done. If they had listened to Yi Bingyu and followed her to escape, they wouldn't have ended up like this. It could only be said that they had brought this upon themselves. The monster had eaten 4 to 5 people. It was probably full, so it didn't continue to eat the rest of the people. It only used its wrists and feet to strangle them in case they escaped. After Lu Jinwan woke up, she found that her life was not in danger for the time being. A vicious look flashed in her eyes. "They'll bring you to find more people. Then, can you let us go?" The monster's eyes rolled around, but there was no reaction. Among the people who escaped in front, there is a little girl with a heavenly thunder spirit root. You will definitely like her. In order to deal with Yun Chujio, Lu Jinwan specially inquired about many things about Yun Chujio, including the matters in the Divine Axe Heavenly Pit. She felt that since Shuai Mo liked people with a heavenly thunder spirit root, this monster might also like them. Sure enough, the monster made a hissing sound, obviously very excited. Lu Jinwan pointed to the west. They ran in that direction. She was ruthless in her heart. Even if she didn't survive in the end, Yun Chujio wouldn't be able to leave alive. And that Yi Bingyu. She had wasted so many years trying to please her. She actually turned hostile and refused to acknowledge her. They all deserve to die. The monster hissed a few times and then quickly crawled in the direction that Lu Jinwan pointed. At this moment, Yun Chujio and the other 3 were desperately running. Anyway, Yun Chujio had many contracted demon beasts. She specially picked the fastest ones as mounts and ran forward desperately. After listening to Yi Bingyi's narration, Yun Chujio felt that the monster was definitely not simple. Moreover, there might be a huge conspiracy behind it. Oh my god! This damn trial could only be completed after a month. She had to find a safe place to stay. Otherwise, she would definitely die. Along the way, she also met some other students. Although Yun Chujio was not kind, she could not just watch them die. Thus, she stretched her neck and told them that there were monsters chasing after them. Unfortunately, some people didn't believe her at all. They thought that Yun Chujio was just scaring them. However, there were also some people, especially those from the Heaven Punisher Academy. When they thought about the matter with the Divine Axe Pit, they hurriedly followed Yun Chujio and the others to escape. Yun Chujio ran as she pondered where to hide. That monster must be very familiar with the Tian Luo mystic realm. She couldn't hide from it, and it would catch up with her sooner or later. Yun Chujio recalled the appearance of the monster described by Yi Bingyu. Since it had many arms and legs, the more complicated the terrain was, the more disadvantageous it would be. Therefore, Yun Chujio commanded the demon beast to run towards a dense forest. The students following behind Yun Chujio were all panting from exhaustion, but they gritted their teeth and endured it. That was because they saw that Yun Chujio did not dare to stop for even a moment, which meant that the monster must be very scary. Otherwise, Yun Chujio, the little demon, would not be so nervous. Finally, everyone entered the dense forest. Yun Chujio and the other three did not blush or pant, because they had free mounts. Everyone gathered around and asked about the monster. Yi Bingyu gave a brief description. Just as she and a few students were about to pick the Sky Luo flower, they suddenly saw those Sky Luo poisonous bees abandon their nests and fly away like crazy. Even the queen bee also ran away. Just as they were feeling strange, they saw that huge monster and then ran away with their lives. Yi Bingyu was able to survive because she had the defensive immortal artifact given to her by the Minshur. Moreover, she was the furthest away from it at that time. Otherwise, she would have been caught long ago. When everyone heard Yi Bingyi's words, a huge panic rose in their hearts. They had never heard of any demon beast having limbs. That was a characteristic of the demon beasts in the sea. What exactly was that thing? Why did it appear in the Tian Luo arcane realm? Before everyone could recover from their shock, they felt the ground tremble slightly. The student in charge of guarding the treetops jumped down and said in fear, "Yes, it's that monster. It's coming." Everyone immediately panicked like headless flies. They did not know what to do. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio. Since she could kill Shui Mo, she could definitely kill that monster this time. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. "What are you all looking at me for? I'm just a weak chicken at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. What can I do?" Lackey Li Huan immediately said obsequiously, "Miss Yun, you are resourceful. We all believe in you. We will do whatever you say. Isn't that right?" Most of the students who ran over were first-year students, and they all agreed. The rest of the senior students and the people from the Hua Stone Academy remained silent, ready to see how things would go. Yun Chujio glanced at those people. Her small face was very gloomy. "People are selfish. If you don't believe me, then please choose another place to stay. After all, this forest is very big. I don't want to wait for the monster to come in because someone doesn't listen to orders and implicates us. Why are you acting like a big shot? Do you really think you're so great? Let's go." Some students left angrily. Yun Chujio looked at the remaining students and said, "That monster has many arms and legs. Its movement will be restricted in this forest, so our best choice is to fight it in the forest." Everyone nodded and felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. No wonder she ran here to hide. At this time, Yun Chujio continued, "That monster's arms and legs can be extended, but I think there is a limit. When the time comes, we will try our best to attack from afar and find its weakness. When we attack later, we will work in groups. This way, we can maintain sufficient vigilance and combat strength to avoid being hit by the monster." Yun Chujio divided the group into 3 groups. She, Shui Wuji, and Jin each led a group. Just as they finished their discussion, they heard a hissing sound. The monster had already entered the forest. Yun Chujio waved her hand at the group. The group jumped onto the tree and looked ahead vigilantly. Yun Chujio gestured to a few of the students, indicating for them to change trees. Although the students did not understand Yun Chujio's intention, they still obediently changed a few trees. They saw a monster the size of a small hill climb into the forest. Its limbs were entangled with more than a dozen people, and some of them were people who did not listen to Yun Chujio's words and ran away. The students on the treetops rejoiced one after another. Fortunately, they chose to believe Yun Chujio, or else they would be dead for sure. Among those people, most of them were dead bodies. Only one woman was alive. With a cold smile on her face, she shouted coldly, "Yun Chujio, come out! Don't think that you can survive by hiding inside. You are dead for sure. Everyone was very puzzled. That woman was wearing the clothes of the W.A. Stone Academy. Why did she look like she was with the monster? Yi Bingyu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. This Lu Jinluan was really crazy. Was she crazy? The monster might have felt that the corpses were a little inconvenient, so it actually sent them into its mouth and swallowed them. Everyone felt nauseous when they saw this. Although the demonic beast was also very cruel, the monster in front of them inexplicably made people feel disgusted. In the end, the monster only carried Lu Jinluan. The rest of the limbs began to dance violently. The trees that were hit by the limbs began to break. Only some trees that were made of hard materials survived. At this time, the students finally understood why Yun Chujio asked them to change the trees. It was because the trees that they were on before were not made of hard materials. If they were hit by the limbs of the monster, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yun Chujio carefully observed the monster. Other than a dozen limbs, there were 4 legs under the monster's body. However, there was no hair on its body. It looked like an octopus with 4 legs. No matter how she looked at it, it was very strange. She did not know if the monster had any other attacking methods other than using its limbs. She had to be careful. Yun Chujio waved her hand at her team and everyone began to attack the monster with their spiritual power. Most of them chose to attack the monster with their spiritual power. This way, they could maintain a certain distance from the monster, and the power would be stronger. Yun Chujio was the exception. She kept shooting purple spiritual needles at the monster's eyes. The monster was very cunning. It used its limbs to wrap around Lu Jinluan and used her body to block everyone's spiritual attacks. At this time, no one cared about Lu Jinluan's life. Moreover, she was obviously with the monster, so it was better for her to die. Therefore, after a round of spiritual attacks, the monster was unharmed, but Lu Jinluan was completely dead. She didn't even close her eyes before she died. She didn't understand why she ended up like this. Could it be that Yun Chujio was really the favored child of Tian Dao, and all those who went against her wouldn't have a good ending? Yun Chujio's spiritual power needle succeeded. Although it didn't cause any substantial damage to the monster, it made the monster cry out in pain and became even angrier. Yun Chujio was delighted and gestured at everyone. Everyone understood and began to aim their spiritual power attacks at the monster's eyes. After the monster sensed everyone's intention, it began to hit the spiritual beasts with its tentacles. The tentacles were very strong, and the spiritual beasts were scattered. Just when Yun Chujio was about to let the next wave of people attack, the monster actually turned around and ran away. Everyone was very puzzled. The monster was not at a disadvantage, so why did it run away? It was really strange. Yun Chujio stood on the treetop. After the monster left the jungle, it actually went back the way it came. Yun Chujio did not dare to slack off. She arranged a few people to be on guard while the rest went down to the ground. What's going on? Why did the monster suddenly leave? Is it afraid of the moon? But I've never heard of any demon beasts that are afraid of the moon. Don't demon beasts like to move at night? Jin Ji said in confusion. Everyone agreed. They felt that it was not because of the moon. Moreover, that monster did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Obviously, it was not because of fear. Then what was the reason? Yun Chujio frowned. No matter what it is, we can't leave this forest. Once we leave the forest, we can only let it slaughter us. Everyone nodded and agreed. After dinner, they took turns to meditate. Suddenly, the student in charge of guarding the tree said in horror, "That monster is back. There's another one." Yun Chujio was shocked. She jumped onto the treetop to take a look. Sure enough, there was another monster beside the monster. It looked the same except that it was slightly smaller. It turned out that the monster had gone to call for reinforcements. With the help of another monster, the two monsters quickly swept through a large area of trees and crawled towards where everyone was hiding while hissing. Everyone started to panic. It was difficult to deal with even one monster. If two monsters came at once, wouldn't they be finished? Fortunately, Yun Chujio arranged it well. One of the three groups of people could rest for a while, but the two monsters did not gain any advantage. For hours later, the two monsters were probably tired and retreated out of the group's attack range, lying on the ground to rest. The group finally let out a sigh of relief and began to take turns to rest. After 2 hours, the two monsters began to attack again. 2 hours later, the two monsters retreated to rest. The cycle continued until the sky was bright. Both sides had been in a stalemate and neither side had gained the upper hand. However, a large part of the trees in the forest had been destroyed by the two monsters. If they dragged on for too long, Yun Chujio and the others would be at a disadvantage. Just like that, the two sides were in a stalemate for 3 days. On this day, during the break between the truce, the students in charge of guarding the forest climbed down from the treetops in fear. They walked to Yun Chujio's side and said a few words. Yun Chujio's expression suddenly changed. She jumped onto the treetops and looked into the distance. She saw that the trees in the other 3 directions started to break. Although she could not see what exactly was happening, Yun Chujio had a bad guess in her heart. There were probably monsters from the other 3 directions rushing over here. If these monsters formed a circle, they would be dead for sure. Many people jumped onto the treetops. They had the same thoughts and concerns as Yun Chujio. They looked at Yun Chujio. Should they stay here or find another way out? Yun Chujio was in a dilemma. There were less than 300 people here. If they did not rely on the terrain, they might not even be able to deal with these two monsters. What should they do? Is there another forest nearby? Yun Chujio asked the group. The group shook their heads. The area they were teleported to was mainly a valley. There was only this area of the forest, and the rest were scattered trees. Yun Chujio knew that her decision was related to their lives, so she did not make a decision right away. Instead, she closed her eyes and began to think. Everyone consciously did not disturb her. They stared at their surroundings vigilantly. At this moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard from afar. Some people ran over in a sorry state. Some of them were those who had left the team previously, and some of them were those who had been forced into the forest by the monsters. When those people saw Yun Chujio and the others, they immediately sat down on the ground. A place with many people would always give them a sense of security. Yun Chujio opened her eyes and glanced at those people. Swear it. If you don't listen to my arrangements, you will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Those people showed an indignant expression. Yun Chujio, don't go too far. This is not your territory. What right do you have to make us swear to listen to you? What right do I have? Just because you came back to us to ask for help. Aren't you all powerful? Then why did you turn back? I don't want to spoil the whole pot of soup because of a piece of rat poop. If you swear to stay, if you don't swear, leave this place immediately. Yun Chujio's face showed a cold expression. On the battlefield, what they were afraid of was not the enemy being strong or the enemy being weak, but they were afraid that they would not listen to orders, and they were afraid that the internal opinions would not be unified. It was unknown whether those people were intimidated by Yun Chujio's cold expression, or if they had no other way to survive other than relying on Yun Chujio and the others. In short, they were all unwilling to make a poison vow. Yun Chujio divided everyone into 4 groups again. She separated the people who came later so that they would not gather together and cause trouble. Yun Chujio made Yi Bingyu the leader of the 4th group. Then, she continued to think of a way to escape. In fact, if it was just her, she did not have to worry at all. At most, she could hide in the Great Void Mirror, but what about the others? Not to mention the others, Shui Wuji, Jin Ji, and Yi Bingyu had to deal with them. Could they just watch them be eaten by the monsters? According to those who escaped, there were 2 monsters in every direction, which added up to 8 monsters. If they fought head-on, they would definitely lose. They had to find another place to occupy the terrain, but where should they go? Yun Chujio was so anxious that she wanted to bang her head against a tree. Because time was limited, once the 8 monsters surrounded them, they would not be able to get out. Some people saw that Yun Chujio could not come up with a solution, so they could not help but gossip. Do you really think you are that capable? If you can't do it, don't occupy a good place. Let whoever can do it go. That's right, isn't he just a new student at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm? Last time at the Godly Axe Heavenly Pit, I guess it was just a blind cat meeting a dead rat. In fact, it was just like that. Yun Chujio's eyes turned cold and she said to the crowd, "Tie them up for me, and well feed them to those monsters when we get out." Although the crowd felt that what Yun Chujio said was inappropriate, they still tied up those people who were gossiping. Those few people first cursed, and then began to beg for mercy with tears and tears streaming down their faces. Yun Chujio did not even look at them. It would be a good thing if they did not kill these people who were trying to bewitch the morale of the army. It was only right to scare them. Shui Wuji curled his lips and got someone to use a rag to cover the mouths of those few people. Instantly, everyone quieted down. They originally thought that Yun Chujio was smiling and would not be serious. Only now did they know that military orders were not just for show. Just as Yun Chujio was frowning, she suddenly had a thought. Just because they didn't know a good place to hide, it didn't mean that the demonic beasts didn't know. They were the original residents of this place, so they must be very familiar with the terrain here. Therefore, Yun Chujio asked the demonic beasts if there was a good place to hide. The demonic beasts also knew that if Yun Chujio died, they would also be finished. Moreover, even if they could escape, these monsters would eat them in the future. Therefore, these demonic beasts thought hard and came up with their own suggestions. Yun Chujio filtered out some ridiculous suggestions, such as digging a hole to bury herself or a rat hole. However, the words of an inescapable earth-shattering bear made her eyes light up. According to the inescapable earth-shattering bear, there was a hidden cave dozens of miles away from the forest. The entrance of the cave was not very wide, but after passing through the tunnel, it was very spacious. Yun Chujio felt that this cave was very good. Because the entrance was narrow, the monsters were huge and difficult to enter. When the time came, they could attack the monsters in the tunnel. As long as they delayed until the end of the trial, they would naturally be ejected out, and then the crisis would be resolved. Yun Chujio thought of this. She said to the crowd, "There is a hidden cave about 30 miles southeast. We will break out of the encirclement in that direction. Everyone move quickly and hide. We must reach that cave before the monsters discover us." The crowd nodded and began to retreat in the direction that Yun Chujio had told them. Of course, the few people who were tied up were also released. They did not dare to speak anymore and obediently followed the crowd to retreat. Although the group tried their best to hide their tracks, the two monsters in front of them still discovered them. They quickly knocked down the trees while hissing and sending messages to the other monsters. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. Ignore them, run. Everyone knew that if they ran one step slower, they might lose their lives. Therefore, they all desperately followed behind Yun Chujio and ran quickly in the dense forest. Yun Chujio deliberately chose the middle area between the two monsters to break out of the encirclement. Fortunately, this dense forest was large enough. Although the two monsters had received the news, when they rushed over, they had already escaped for several miles. The monsters were so angry that they hissed. They gathered together and chased in the direction where everyone was escaping. Yun Chujio followed the guidance of the heaven and earth splitting bear and finally found the cave entrance that was covered with layers of vines. Everyone entered the cave in a single file. The entrance of the cave was indeed very narrow, and only 3 people could walk side by side. Yun Chujio was very satisfied after observing the tunnel. This tunnel was not straight, but winding, which was more conducive to the ambush. The only difficulty now was how to deal damage to the monster's limbs. Although everyone's spiritual attacks were not completely useless, their effects were very limited. No matter what kind of spiritual attacks they used, they could not deal any substantial damage to the monster's limbs. Yun Chujio was very resentful of the little flame. Why was she sleeping all of a sudden? Otherwise, with the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, she might be able to burn off the monster's limbs in a minute. Yun Chujie's eyes lit up as she thought about it. The last time when Shuemo hid in the stone egg, she used a large kitchen knife to cut open the stone egg. Then, could the large kitchen knife cut off the monster's limbs? The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more excited she became. She was actually looking forward to the arrival of the monsters. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio took out her big kitchen knife and muttered, "Big kitchen knife, this time it's all up to you." The students around Yun Chujio saw her eager expression and heard her muttering. They were all dumbfounded. Could it be that she wanted to use this big kitchen knife to cut the monster's limbs? Although the kitchen knife had cut the stone egg last time, they still felt that it was a fluke. Could it cut the monster's limbs this time? At this moment, the ground began to shake, and it was getting more and more intense. Yun Chujio signaled for everyone to step back. Then she held the kitchen knife and carefully observed the situation. There was an intense hissing sound coming from the entrance of the cave. It was probably the monsters talking. After a while, a tentacle tentatively reached in. A glimmer of light flashed in Yun Chujio's eyes. This was her chance. Yun Chujio raised her kitchen knife and slashed at the tentacle. After the tentacle was cut off, the black liquid inside sprayed onto the stone wall. Seeing that the kitchen knife was effective, Yun Chujio was overjoyed. Just as she was about to chop off another part of the tentacle suddenly retracted. Moreover, there was a shrill cry from the monster outside the cave. It was obviously in great pain. The students behind Yun Chujio immediately cheered up. Those monsters had suffered a loss. It was estimated that they would not be able to extend their limbs in for a while. They could finally catch their breath. After waiting for a while, Yun Chujio saw that the monster did not take any further action. She asked the students to stay alert here and then walked into the tunnel. The tunnel was not very long, about 500 feet long. At the end of the tunnel was a large stone room, which was more than enough to accommodate 400 people. Everyone was meditating and resting. When they saw Yun Chujio come in, they all asked about the situation. Yun Chujio gave a simple explanation. Although she was a little worried that the strange feature of the big kitchen knife would attract the attention of others, it was not good to hide it at this time. After listening to Yun Chujio's explanation, everyone could not help but feel a little more at ease. Someone said, "Miss Yun, since your kitchen knife can cut off the monster's limbs, I guess they won't dare to attack us easily." "Yes, perhaps they will leave after they can't take advantage of us. In that case, we will be safe." Yun Chujio shook her head disapprovingly. "Those monsters won't give up easily. They'll definitely think of a way to force us out or attack us. Let's take advantage of the fact that they haven't attacked us yet. Everyone rest well and rest up to prepare for the next battle." Although some people thought that Yun Chujio was exaggerating, they still began to meditate on the spot to recover their strength. A few hours passed, but the monsters did not make any further moves. They could only hear the occasional hissing sound coming from the cave entrance. No one knew what the monsters were discussing. Just when everyone thought that they would be safe for the time being, there were scattered rocks falling from the cave ceiling. Everyone cried out in surprise, What's going on? Is this place going to collapse?" An ominous feeling rose in everyone's heart. Could it be that those monsters were planning to collapse the cave? Those monsters were huge, so it was not too difficult for them to collapse the stone wall. Everyone's faces were filled with fear. If they did not rush out, they would be crushed to death by the rocks. If they rushed out, they would be eaten by the demonic beasts guarding the entrance of the cave. It was over. They were dead meat. Some people once again complained about Yun Chujio. They felt that it was because of her decision that everyone was in trouble. However, they were shocked by Yun Chujio's previous actions. Although they were displeased, they did not dare to say it out loud. Yun Chujio frowned. She had still underestimated the brute strength of these monsters. They could even shake a mountain. How could there be such a monster in this heavenly Luo secret territory? Of course, now was not the time to think about this. The most important thing now was to get out of the current predicament. If they waited here, there would only be one outcome waiting for them, and that was to be crushed to death by the rocks. However, if they rushed out, they would only die. Although her large kitchen knife could cut off the monster's limbs, there was only one large kitchen knife, so its effect was limited. Moreover, the tunnel was narrow, so there were so many people, so they would not be able to rush out in a short time. The situation was in a stalemate. Everyone avoided the falling rocks while looking at Yun Chujio anxiously. Some people could not stand the torture and rushed into the tunnel like crazy. They were hoping to get lucky. The monster's attention was on the stone wall, so they might be able to rush out. However, not long after, the screams of those people were heard. Apparently, they had been killed by the monsters. Yun Chujio had never encountered such a helpless situation. Was there really no solution to this situation? There was definitely no way out from the front. It would be great if there was a back door. Wait, back door? Yun Chujio held a large kitchen knife and knocked on the surrounding rock walls. She tried to cut down a rock, and her eyes immediately lit up. The rock in this mountain was not particularly hard. Perhaps she could really cut out a back door because she had Xiao He. Moreover, among the demonic beasts that she had contracted before, there were also many demonic beasts that were good at digging holes. As long as she dug out a side tunnel, they would be able to escape from the encirclement of the monsters without anyone noticing and then find another place to hide. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio said to the crowd, "Which of your spiritual beasts knows how to dig holes? Quickly release them and listen to my arrangements." Needless to say, there were indeed a few people who knew how to dig holes and released them one after another. Although the crowd felt that Yun Chujio's method was not bad, they felt that it would probably take a few days to dig a tunnel with just a few demon beasts. By then, the daylily would have turned cold and they would have died long ago. At this moment, Yun Chujio raised her hand, and a sky drill ground mouse was released. With another wave of her hand, another sky drill ground mouse was released. Yun Chujio released the demonic beasts, and each of them was a demonic beast that was good at digging holes. Everyone was so shocked that their mouths could not close. How could Yun Chujio have so many demonic beasts? These demonic beasts were saved by me when I was running away. They are also afraid of those monsters. I am a soft-hearted person. I thought that since they are all living creatures, I will help them if I can. Yun Chujio said with a compassionate tone. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, everyone nodded in realization. So that was the case. Just like that, how could a person contract so many spiritual beasts? So it was a convenient rescue. Some lackeys took the opportunity to praise Yun Chujio a few times, saying things like kindness, and good karma. Those demonic beasts almost fainted from anger. She was soft-hearted? Who was the one who tortured them to the point that they suspected that the beasts were giving birth? Who was the one who forcefully established a temporary contract with them? However, it was also true. If it wasn't for her keeping them in the spirit beast pouch, they might really have been eaten by those monsters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.